The evening looks harmless until you notice how it listens. Leaves stir, the street breaths, and the last light lays copper on the sidewalks. Maya Grant moves through it like a rumor come home. Her stride is measured, the residue of training that never quite sleeps. Kane, the Rottweiler, matches her pace, shoulder to knee, his head level, his attention floating ahead like a scout. Her face gives nothing back. Her eyes record, then release. Jet lag rides the bone, but home should be simple. She tastes cut grass, chlorine from a backyard pool, a neighbor's cinnamon drifting out an open window. Sprinklers tick, garage doors hum. Normal is choreographed here, with every sound in its lane and every glance short enough to pass for politeness. Even courtesy has edges if you brush it wrong. The glances keep coming. A sedan's idle slows near the stop sign. The driver looks once, then again. Curiosity thins into caution. Curtains sigh and settle in a second-story window. A runner's cadence stutters as he crosses. Earbuds in, gaze fixed ahead. Jaw set, like he's chewing a thought he won't swallow. None of it is loud. It lands. Maya keeps her hands visible, the leash slack. The dog's chest rolls under the black coat, power disguised as patience. Easy, she says, the word more ritual than command. She catalogues routes without looking. 3 exits, 1 blind corner, 2 oaks, because someone might confuse profile with threat. The neighborhood smells like safety ads. It has HOA newsletters and porch cameras. She paid for a slice of this quiet, just like anyone else. Still, the quiet insists on a question mark whenever she walks through it. She doesn't argue. She files. She adapts. She keeps moving. Sidewalk unspools like tape she might need later. Kane pricks his ears at a distant clang, the hollow metal of a trash can lid, and then relaxes. Cars breathe by. A child's voice lifts from a backyard and is pulled away by a parent's softer one. Maya rolls a shoulder, feeling the ghost of a rifle strap. She left a war zone 3 flights ago, declared all her weapons to a customs agent who smiled like he'd done his good deed by noon. Here, the guns are subtler. Here, restraint is the body armor. A porch light blinks on before she reaches it. Motion sensor. She registers the way it becomes a spotlight anyway. Kane's head turns once, checking her, then forward. She smiles for him. The leash brushes her wrist like a pulse. The sun drops behind the ridge at the cul-de-sac, and the street clicks blue. Somewhere, a screen door snaps. Somewhere else, the laughter stops too quickly. Maya names her surroundings in silence. Mailbox, Camry, sycamore, camera, shadow, and feels the map settle. Home is supposed to be the place that forgets to judge. Tonight, it remembers. She notes that fact and keeps walking toward the next block, where the light thins and the air gets honest. The patrol car appears first as a hush, tires smoothing over asphalt. Blue on white eases around the corner. Interested. Maya clocks it without turning her head. The cruiser matches her pace, window humming lower. "Evening," says the driver. "Officer Callaway. Mid-40s, Jim Strong, certainty preloaded." Passenger side, Officer Miller leans forward, elbows on knees, scanning with the restlessness of a man who wants suspicion to become assignment. Maya stops, because not stopping becomes its own offense. Leash slack, hands visible. "Evening," she answers, voice precise enough to be neutral. "You live around here?" Callaway asks. "Yes." "Address?" Miller says. "Maple Ridge. 2 blocks over." "That right." Callaway's gaze drops to Kane, lingers on the harness and the muscles under the coat. "That dog trained?" "Yes." "For what?" "Obedience." "Folks called about someone walking late," Miller says. "Looked nervous." "Who looked nervous?" Maya asks. He gestures at the night. "People." Kane shifts are small weight changes, like a question. Maya brushes his shoulder with the back of her hand. "We're heading home." "From where?" Callaway asks. She names the park, the route, the time. "You got ID?" Miller says. "In my pocket." She doesn't move. Do you want me to reach for it? Slowly, Callaway says, hand near his holster. Maya carefully draws her wallet, opens it, and holds her license flat. Kane watches, breath steady. Grant, Miller reads. Maya, occupation. He glances up. Says federal. Cute. It says what it says. Federal like post office? Federal. Callaway considers the card longer than necessary and returns it, so she has to step closer. Power is in inches. He measures them. So you're saying you belong here? I'm saying I live here. Anyone can say that, Miller says. Anyone can read an address, she replies. Callaway shifts to terms he prefers. Residents have been on edge. Break-ins, car prowls. We get a call, we check it out. You understand? I understand you got a call. And I see a large dog. He nods at Kane. Protection breed. People get skittish. Kane is leashed, calm, and under command. Under command of what? Miller says. Me. The radio murmurs codes. They've chosen this moment. Callaway steps out, then Miller, 2 uniforms on a sidewalk, 1 woman, 1 dog. Here's the thing, Callaway says. You're walking late. You're unknown to us. Your dog's big. That combination can be alarming. And yet nothing unlawful has occurred, Maya says. You seem tense, Miller observes. I seem observant. See, that tone, Callaway smirks. Comes off confrontational. I'm answering your questions. Technically. Am I being detained? She asks. Not yet, Miller says. Got anything in that bag? Weapons, spray, chapstick and keys. You mind if we take a look? Callaway asks. I do mind. Without cause? No. Miller steps into her space, crowding the leash. Ma'am, cooperate, and we're all good. I have cooperated. Say it again. But respectful, he says softly. Kane's chest expanded, and a low vibration was born and buried, warning her to travel only as far as her hand. Maya shifts half a step to give him room to see without thinking that he must act. Officers, she says, you have my identity, address, and compliance. I'm walking my dog to my home. Turn around for me, Callaway says. Quick pat down for everyone's safety. No. His eyebrows lift. No? No probable cause. No consent. Miller's laugh scrapes. Lawyer words. Citizen words. This can be easy, Callaway says. It can be lawful. A long second passes. Miller angles right, trying to split the woman from the dog. Kane mirrors him, head low, eyes bright. Nothing moves fast. Everything leans forward. Control your animal, Miller says. He is controlled. Make him sit. Kane, down. The dog folds to the pavement like a practiced thought, gaze locked on the men. The leash stays loose. Callaway studies the picture. Composed woman, compliant dog. It doesn't give him the scene he wants. He clicks his tongue. We'll remember you, Ms. Grant. She holds his eyes. You already did. The cruiser swallows them again. It rolls past with a slow sigh. Maya exhales. Kane breathes deeper. The street restarts, but the night does not reset. She knows the sound of something that plans to return. Kane stays alert. The cruiser returns like a correction. Same car, slower. Lights off. Maya hears the radio hiss before the tires settle. Kane tips his ears, leans into her leg, and stills. Doors open. Callaway carries decision in his shoulders. Miller carries friction in his jaw. No greeting, Ms. Grant, Callaway says. Step over here. To what end? Follow-up questions. We got a second call. From who? Neighbors. Miller's hand rests on the butt of his pistol. Kane tracks the hand, not the man. Maya lowers her breath. Heel. The leash stays loose. Her palms are visible. You refused a pat-down, Callaway says. We can do this the simple way, or the lawful way, she answers. Miller moves to her right, crowding the leash. Turn around. No. He reaches for the lead near Kane's jaw. I'll secure the dog. You will not touch him. Her tone is quiet, the kind of calm that ends arguments. For safety. Whose? She asks. Everyone's, Callaway says. Hands where I can see them. She raises them slowly. Bones remembers training. Her wrists draw a line Kane understands. He watches her knuckles for cues she doesn't send. The night is careful around them. Miller's fingers keep coming. It's a hand to the face of a protection dog. A rule break dressed as procedure. Kane rises 2 inches, offers a single bark, short as a metronome. Don't, Maya says. The moment splits. Callaway clears leather. Miller levels. The gunshot is a flat clap that rearranges the street. Kane folds like gravity doubled. He hits her shins, surprised, as if sound itself struck him. His chest tries once, then again learns stillness. Maya's hands are still up. Reflex cancels training. She drops to gather his head. The coat holds warmth. The strength is here, but scattered. His eyes find hers, bright and apologetic, waiting for the command that fixes everything. Hey, she says, and the word breaks. Hey! Back up, Callaway orders, though she hasn't moved. He charged, Miller says to the report he will write. Aggressive animal. Kane's breath thins under her fingers. A last rumble lifts. Once warning, now goodbye. She doesn't cry. Shock puts a lid on the world. Protocols appear. Stop the bleeding. Make a perimeter. Lock the voice. There is no bleeding she can stop. The only perimeter is her hands. Windows fill with faces. A phone rises, records from the wrong angle. The night will blur the truth. We told you to control your dog, Callaway says, pressing authority over fear. This is on you, she stands. The leash slips and falls like a sentence that ends early. The street tilts, then steadies. She studies Miller's fingers, the tremor that wasn't there earlier. Callaway's stance, weight forward, as if braced to justify a second mistake. I complied, she says to the silence, the cameras, and her record. I complied. Turn around, Callaway orders. She does. She offers her wrists. The cuffs bite. She watches her reflection in the cruiser's paint. A woman reduced to outline, and blue night-swallowing sidewalk behind her. A mother calls a child inside. A television laughs without pause. The neighborhood resets everything except the air. Should have kept him home, Miller mutters. Maya imagines nothing. She decides. What gathers in her isn't heat. It's weather. Cold front moving fast, pressure dropping, lines tightening on a map only she can read. As they guide her to the open door, she memorizes the angle of Kane's body and fixes it to time, a coordinate she will navigate by. The night listens. It keeps her promise. They guide her by the elbows like she's a door moved, not a person. The cuffs sit high on the wrist bone with each step, metal gnawing skin. Kane is a black shape behind them, suddenly an object. Evidence. A neighbor asks if everything is okay without stepping off the porch. It is a question designed to end with answers. Maya sets her jaw and breathes through a square. 4 in, hold, 4 out, hold. Stacking steadiness against the edges of humiliation. She logs details for later. Badge numbers half obscured by jacket folds, scuffed toe of Callaway's boot. Miller's aftershave, medicinal and cheap. The street camera that blinks, but does not care. Calm is a tool. She oils it in her palm and keeps moving. At the cruiser, they press her forward, forearms against the warm hood. The night throws their voices back at them. Anything sharp on you? No. Any weapons? No. Are you resisting? No. Questions shaped like traps. Answers filed like confessions. A neighbor's porch cam watches. She faces it and lets it record the cadence of her restraint. The back seat smells like bleach and old rain. Vinyl sighs under the weight of 1,000 arrests, real and performative. Her reflection ghosts in the partition glass. Tidied hair, grit at the mouth, eyes steady as iron filings around a magnet. She names the feeling that threatens to rise. Rage. Present. She names the countermeasure. Discipline. Present. She lets them stand at parade rest inside her. The radio spits shorthand victory. One female in custody. The word female lands the way it's meant to. A narrowing. Callaway glances back once, looking for regret. She gives him none. Regret is energy spent in the wrong direction. She saves every watt. Inside the station, fluorescent light eats color. A civilian clerk stares, then looks away. Fingerprints are coaxed from skin she'd rather not give. The scanner chirps approval like praise for obedience. Mugshot. A bright square, a bad angle, a future thumbnail strangers will argue over. She keeps her gaze level, refusing the narrative that wants either shame or fury. Discipline is not numbness. It's a bridled stallion at the gate, hooves sparking. She loops the reins twice around her fist. She thinks of Kane's last look, trust offered, command awaited, and edits her breath to match it. Steady, directive, final. All that's left is the quiet plan. Jasmine arrives like a verdict with legs. Door swings, badge flashes, voice cuts. Special Agent Jasmine Lee. You're processing a federal agent for walking her dog. Unhook her. The desk sergeant weighs his options, finds paperwork heavier than courage, and shrugs bureaucratically. Misunderstanding, he says. We were ensuring public safety. The phrase tastes pre-chewed. They remove the cuffs with the ceremony of a refund. Maya rubs one wrist, then folds her hands to keep them from doing more honest work. Jasmine's eyes flicker. Wrists, split lip, the grit of dried asphalt on Maya's sleeve. You good? She asks, which means, are you explosive? I'm functional, Maya says. For now. Callaway appears in the doorway. Miller half a step behind. Both men wearing the bored grin of men sure the world is shaped like them. Agent, Callaway says, like the word is a novelty he'll toss when done. Real shame about the dog. But, you know, compliance saves lives. Miller nods at nothing. Control your animal, control your evening. Jasmine turns, voice low and surgical. You discharged a weapon at a leashed dog after precipitating the threat. You then arrested the handler without cause. Internal Affairs will receive a package. The sergeant clears his throat. No need to escalate, ma'am. We've reviewed the incident. Cleared. The word lands softly, like lint. Jasmine's mouth hardens. Of course you have. They hand back Maya's property in a plastic tub. Wallet, phone, keys, and a leash without a purpose. She lifts it like a flag folded too soon. Callaway leans on the counter. Careful out there, Ms. Grant. Neighborhood's jumpy. Miller adds, try a smaller dog. Outside, night air shaves the heat from her skin. Parking lot halogens buzz, and the city's breath smells like hot wires. Jasmine plants herself between Maya and the feeling that wants to sprint. Let me work this, she says. IA, civil rights, media. We do it clean, Maya studies the leash. The leather remembers the shape of a life. Clean was tonight, she says. This is aftermath. Jasmine searches her face, looking for the door that leads back. If you move without the system, you lose your badge. Maya slides the leash into her pocket like a map. If I wait for the system, I lose his name. Home is quieter than any battlefield. The house keeps its breath shallow. Each room is an echo chamber for the small sounds that matter. The fridge settling, a clock, and the soft scrape of the leash against the counter where Kane's collar left an impression. Maya moves through it like a surveyor, cataloging absence. A cup on the sink with a lipstick crescent, a towel folded half-morning, the place where a dog's paws marked the rug. Memory is tangible. She handles it. She sets the leash down and opens the laptop. Camera feeds populate. Front walk, porch, mailbox, fisheye. She built the system because trust had been expensive. Footage clicks. The cruiser eases past. Voices overlay like a script. Callaway steps out. Miller edges in. Kane folds to the pavement. The flat, definitive shot replays in a frame she can freeze. Details are tools. She grabs stills and timestamps, crops to show hands that contradict later statements. She extracts audio, watches waveforms for drawn breaths and forced pauses. Files are organized into folders like chess moves. Evidence, initial, witness, cams, medical photos. Work contains grief. It channels it. She calls favors with the economy of someone who knows goodwill runs on reciprocity. An analyst answers, a forensics tech she trained with texts back. Priority on enhancement and metadata, she says. Chain of custody sealed. No leaks. Replies are sharp and obedient. Within hours, noise reduces. Timestamps reveal a blank in the cruiser's log where their story will need filling. On the kitchen island, she spreads maps, patrol routes, complaint clusters, neighbor cameras, and blind spots. She annotates Callaway's bar, Miller's shifts, and prior complaints where force was the constant. She marks legal pressure points, IA thresholds, public records, request dates, union timelines. Red lines mark where pressure applies. Blue lines mark exits she must seal. Her aim is structural. She wants the shield removed from men who treat it like a blanket. She wants the next handler to walk without that itch of fear. Anger sharpens into calculus. She drafts an email to a tight list. Evidence attached, demand stated, deadline set. The language is procedural, succinct, unemotional, unassailable. She catalogs allies and weak links, names journalists and activists who will listen. She rehearses the public timeline, how the footage will land, who will demand answers, and where pressure must concentrate. At 2 a.m., she encrypts and duplicates the files with strict release rules. One copy is an insurance policy. The other is a carefully placed fuse. She sleeps in short cycles, her couch angled to the laptop, and her phone within reach. The leash in her pocket is not a weapon so much as a compass, a tactile promise. Her fury cools into patience. Where rage burns, strategy endures. The reckoning begins as a map, a sequence of small certainties rather than a single eruption. She will use timing, public pressure, procedural leverage, and the slow accumulation of contradictions to pry open a system that prefers to hide. For now, she breathes and waits, each inhale a measured readiness. Immediately. Precision begins with the ordinary. Callaway drinks on Tuesdays and Thursdays, parks in the alley without cameras, and tips in cash. He leaves his ring in his glove box, wears a smile that wobbles after the third pour, and leans too close when the room grows bored. Maya learns the bartender's hours, the window where the streetlight dies. She memorizes the pace of his swagger, the tilt that says he expects pavement to hold him up. She watches 3 nights without moving. On the 4th, she enters as background. Dark jacket, nothing to remember. She lets the casino across the boulevard paint her alibi. Time-stamped entry, crowded frames, witnesses who will swear she never left. Then she leaves for 7 minutes that disappear between cameras. Gaps are tactical if you understand the map. The bar smells of bleach failing to erase beer. Callaway laughs with the rhythm of a man daring consequence to keep up. When he wobbles toward the back door, she peels from the shadow. The alley meets him cold. "Evening, officer," she says. He blinks at the voice, the shape, the possibility. His hand goes halfway to a weapon he left in the car. She steps inside the reach. A palm heel shocks ribs. A toe turns his knee. The wall loans its hardness to her purpose. He collapses by increments. First pride, then posture, then balance. He wheezes, blinks, wet. "Who?" "You'll give yourself my name," she says. Later, in private. He swings, sloppy with bourbon and entitlement. She redirects the arm and persuades the elbow to disagree with him. Pain resets arrogance at speed. He folds. She squats so he can hear her without the alley overhearing their conversation. "You are going to survive this," she says. "I want you alive for the work." "What work?" His voice scrapes. "The kind where you wake before dawn because silence is loud. Where a doorbell makes you flinch. Where you wonder which story will leak next, and how many hands will turn the wheel. You'll keep your weapon close, your wife closer, and neither will help." He spits red, tries to smile. "You threatening a cop?" "I'm describing a season." She shows him a still from her phone, his hands on her in the doorway of her home, grain fine, angles clean. Color drains out of him. Fear introduces itself in his own language. "This isn't about a punch," she says. "It's about a mirror." She lets him slump, breathing tight, pain recalibrating his beliefs. Then she taps the badge clipped at his belt, almost gently. "This stops covering you tomorrow." She stands and walks. He tries to stand, fails, and learns to crawl again. Back on the boulevard, the casino's lenses remember her. She loses a hand of blackjack, smiles for the camera, and leaves a receipt any auditor will respect. Psychological warfare is choreography. Let the mind dance its worst-case scenarios, then make them documentaries. Callaway will slowly watch himself fall for months. Rumor does the work before reports are filed. 2 uniforms appear bruised in the hospital's wings, and the precinct's group chat becomes a siren. The word vigilante lands quickly. Useful, external, clean. It allows Callaway and Miller to be victims instead of variables. Internal affairs clocks in. The union rep practices outrage. They swarm the same blocks they've always owned. Community leaders get surprise visits. The boxing coach, who filed a complaint, is pulled from his class and questioned under harsh light. A youth mentor has his car tossed on a pretext so thin it could be worn as perfume. Church deacons find squad cars idling at the curb like a warning stitched into Sunday. It is choreography disguised as policing. Maya watches their patterns under a quilt of cameras. She owns her grid and borrows others with permission. The map blossoms. Cruisers looping, door knocks multiplying. Maglights grazing door frames. She assigns icons. Red for retaliation, blue for phishing, and gold for witnesses who deserve a lawyer. A web thickens until it resembles something predatory and fragile. Everything is evidence if you commit to a theory of gravity. She captures Miller leaning on a teenager with a question stacked like a threat. She captures Callaway outside the gym, pretending to stretch a sore back while measuring the doorway. She catches a supervisor coaching phrasing. Use feared for safety, not got startled. That one she forwards to the inbox of a reporter who respects receipts. Grief wants to sprint. She makes it walk. "I don't rage, I calculate," she tells herself, then proves it by setting alarms for sleep, calories, and calls returned. She refuses martyrdom's romance. She needs stamina more than purity. At dawn, she runs 3 miles without chasing her shadow. At noon, she eats, even if the food tastes like cardboard that remembers being bread. They hold a press conference, a podium, a seal, a script. The chief condemns violence against our officers, says nothing about a dog, and telegraphs a dragnet with patriotism's smile. Maya stands at the crowd's edge, hat low, phone steady, and records when a lie tries to become policy. She files the clip under mythology. They knock on her neighbors' doors again. Careful now. Polite, like wolves rehearsing sheep. The neighbor across the street texts her a photo. Miller at the stoop, Callaway on the walkway pretending not to be in frame. She archives, thanks, and reminds, "Do not engage. Save everything." The neighborhood learns to keep records the way places keep gardens. By week's end, the precinct looks tired in its reflection. IA has questions it can't bury. The union wants blood it can't find. The web on Maya's wall hums with collected momentum. Dates, names, overlaps, the slow geometry of consequences. She studies it silently, the leash coiled on a hook above the desk, like a metronome for patience. When the anger stirs, she lets the grid answer it with inevitability. She staged vulnerability like set dressing, leaving deliberate traces that read as clutter to anyone skimming a house for trophies. A half-closed gun safe, an open jar of dog treats, a bowl with a lipstick smudge. Traces that begged a simple narrative. Careless owner, tendered target. Cameras watched from places cops overlooked. The rain chain, the mailbox, the dead corner beneath the sycamore. When Callaway and Miller arrived, the script in their heads had already written her culpability. They knocked like men who meant to take the scene for themselves. She opened the door and greeted them with the easy posture of someone returning from a walk. Kane's leash sat coiled on the counter. A question. They came inside without warrants because they believed their badge made doors optional. Callaway's voice was theatrical. Miller's eyes scanned for props. Maya let them narrate what they wanted to see. She let Callaway get close enough to judge the couch leather, and Miller stepped into the kitchen, where a jar of treats sat. The assault began as a ritual. A shove, a pushed word, hands at her shoulders. They wanted a reaction and to rebuild the moment that justified force. Maya moved as if surprised. She stumbled, let the watching camera catch their hands at her throat. Miller misread the hesitation for defiance and grabbed harder. Callaway pulled a wrist toward a holster he imagined necessary. Her training rewired reflex into choreography. She twisted under Miller's grip, slamming her elbow into his ribs, a precise strike that spilled breath. She used his momentum to sweep his legs, not to break bones, but to break posture. Callaway lunged. She dropped and applied pressure to his shoulder. A joint lock taught for control, not cruelty. Both men hit the floor, shocked rather than injured. She cuffed them with their restraints, a humiliation amplified on camera. Their badges flashed in the lens as proof of their titles and undoing. Maya stood, voice flat. "You can invent probable cause," she said, "but you can't rewrite a videotape." She interrogated them in the room staged to trap them, asking the same questions they had aimed at her. Who called the complaint? Who filed the report? And which supervisor coached the language? They spluttered, fought for narratives that would fit their union and privilege. She fed them the evidence she had compiled. Timestamps, patrol logs, prior complaints. Each piece placed a mirror in front of them. When Callaway demanded her name, he did not recognize it once she said it. He flinched when she attached details, case numbers, dates, badge IDs, and the quiet promise that followed. Administrative files, media drops, timed public disclosures. She released them into a world where their story would be interrogated as often as they had interrogated others. She left them alive because annihilation silences testimony. She wanted them to remember every bruise and every quiet, certain threat. A career unraveled, a family under scrutiny, sleep that never again felt whole. Revenge, for her, was architecture. It required foundation, not fury. She times the send for a weekday morning when newsrooms hunt for proof, not rumor. Files travel on scheduled releases. The curbside stop, the second return, the shot, the arrest, the home invasion, the interrogation under her cameras, the precinct coaching phrase about fear. Each clip carries transcripts, metadata, chain of custody notes, and a short line any editor can read on air. The package does not shout. It simply arrives and behaves like the truth. The first station blinks, then bites. By noon, the footage blooms on every screen that once ignored her. Captions crawl. Anchors flatten their voices to sound fair. Lawyers parse procedures they never felt on their skin. Community leaders name patterns. The union names betrayal. Internal Affairs names an already overdue investigation. Callaway and Miller are suspended by sunset. Badges in envelopes, guns surrendered, statements issued through counsel that will go against the evidence. Maya does not gloat because gloating wastes oxygen. She answers 2 questions, declines 20, and disappears from the perimeter of the story she engineered. Justice, she thinks, is not a mood, but a method. It has a schedule, ledger, and memory long enough to outlast someone's outrage curve. Loyalty is simpler. A hand on a leash. A dog that reads your breath and believes you'll keep it steady. She kept it steady. At night, she writes names in a notebook. Officers, supervisors, the clerk who looked away, the neighbor who filmed, the reporter who didn't bury the lead. Not all of them live in the same column. Systems are organisms. Rot isn't cured by one incision. You cut where you can and teach others where to cut next. When the noise plateaus, she drives to the small, square patch of ground that holds Kane's last weight. The marker is modest. The grass hasn't learned to fill yet. She kneels and sets the leash beside the stone like a finished sentence. Wind moves through the sycamore. Somewhere a chain clinks against a gutter. The evening listens. She doesn't speak, because grief needs discipline too. She lets the silence have its say, then lets it end. Standing, she pockets the leash and surveys the street like before everything. The neighborhood looks different now, only because she does. Calm is back. Control is back. Danger is too, and it is pointed the right way. She walks home, ready now.